She was an orphan, a foreigner, and a woman in a male-dominated empire, but she became a queen and the savior of her people. The story of Esther is more than just a tale of beauty and royalty. It's a powerful testimony of bold faith, divine timing, and God's unseen hand working behind the scenes. The story of Esther unfolds during the reign of King Xerxes Ahasuerus of Persia around 480 BC. The Jewish people were in exile, scattered throughout the Persian Empire after Babylon conquered Judah. Though far from Jerusalem, God was still with his people. King Xerxes ruled from India to Ethiopia over 127 provinces. He throws a lavish banquet lasting 180 days to display his wealth and power. At the climax, he summons his wife Queen Vashti to appear before the court, but she refuses, an act of great boldness which leads to her being banished. To replace Vashti, a beauty pageant is held throughout the kingdom, and Esther, a young, beautiful Jewish orphan raised by her cousin Mordecai, is chosen as queen. However, she keeps her Jewish identity a secret as Mordecai advises. Enter the villain, Haman, a powerful official promoted by the king. When Mordecai refuses to bow to him, Haman's pride turns to rage, but instead of just punishing Mordecai, he plots genocide. To wipe out all Jews in the empire, Haman deceives Xerxes into signing an irrevocable decree to exterminate the Jews on a specific day. The date is chosen by casting lots, giving us the name of the Jewish feast Purim. Mordecai sends word to Esther, begging her to intervene. But there's a problem. Anyone who approaches the king uninvited can be put to death unless the king extends his golden scepter. Esther wrestles with fear. In Esther 4:14, Mordecai says, "And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" These words awaken her destiny. Esther calls for a 3-day fast, showing her reliance on God before making her move. Then, in an act of radical courage, she enters the king's throne room, risking her life. The king extends his scepter, and she's spared. But Esther doesn't reveal her request immediately. Instead, she wisely invites the king and Haman to a private banquet, and then a second one. That night, the king can't sleep. He reads the royal records and realizes that Mordecai once saved his life but was never rewarded. The next day, the king publicly honors Mordecai, humiliating Haman, who had just built gallows to hang him. At the second banquet, Esther reveals her true identity and boldly exposes Haman's plot to destroy her people. The king is enraged. Haman is executed on the very gallows he prepared for Mordecai. Though the original decree couldn't be revoked, Esther and Mordecai are given authority to write a new one. The Jews may now defend themselves. On the appointed day, the Jews fight back and are victorious. The celebration becomes the annual Feast of Purim, a joyous reminder that God can turn mourning into dancing and reversal is possible when He is in control. The Book of Esther is unique. God is never mentioned by name, yet His fingerprints are everywhere. God positions people in power for a purpose. Esther wasn't just beautiful, she was chosen for a divine assignment. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the choice to act in spite of it. Your hidden identity doesn't mean you're insignificant. God sees and uses the overlooked. God can reverse any situation. What the enemy meant for harm, God turned for good. Esther reminds us that in moments of crisis, God often works through ordinary people who are willing to be brave. You may not feel ready, but you are positioned for purpose, for such a time as this. Esther 4:14. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?